Sure thing. We'll just let a few more people log on, but I'd like to welcome everyone to leave any comments in the Zoom chat or in the Facebook comments. You can also email us at programs@albemarlehistory.org. You send us any questions you would like us to try to address during the show, and you can send us any suggestions you have for future shows. A few announcements before we get started. On June 8th at 7 p.m., Dr. Shelley Murphy and Miranda Burnett will once again be answering all of your genealogical questions and discussing the Slavery in America database. You can submit your questions to library@albemarlehistory.org and sign up for the event at www.jmrl.org. On June 15th at 7 p.m., we will have Sam Towler back to discuss the history of Foxfield Farm from the Monacan inhabitants all the way up to the present. And Kelsey Cox, the new executive director of Foxfield Races, will also join us for a guest appearance to discuss the future of the property and the upcoming fall races. And for those of you who sometimes ponder weekend weary, please join us on June 29th at 6 p.m. for our special virtual event with the Poe Museum, The Independence of Poe, a declaration of a different sort, when curator Chris Simpner will tell us how Edgar Allan Poe declared America's literary and artistic independence from Europe. You can register in advance with a Zoom link, which we will get in the chat. Also, our walking tours are getting popular, so please email me at programs@albemarlehistory.org to book yours while spots remain and before it gets too hot out there. But I think that's enough announcements for now. Let's make some history. Hello, everybody. I'm Sterling Howell here with Tom Chapman of the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, and we'd like to welcome you to Unregulated Historical Meanderings, the Cvillepedia Report Edition. This is our 7th unregulated, unstructured live show in which we invite some person or persons to join us and have a casual conversation about things of interest to our friends here in the Charlottesville, Albemarle area and beyond. Today, we are proud to have students from the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy at UVA's Formative Change Group Consulting, Julian Brock, Lucy Hopkins, and Anna Sexauer. Anna is from the Eastern Shore of Virginia and is a rising 4th year. She is studying public policy and leadership at the Batten School and economics. This past year, Anna took a gap semester and moved to Hawaii. Must be tough out there, so she's enjoying learning how to kite surf and reading on the beach. Julian Brock is a rising 2nd year Master's of Public Policy candidate at University of Virginia, who graduated this year with a bachelor's in economics from UVA as well. He's from just outside Nashville, Tennessee, and is specializing in criminal law and economic policy. Also, we have Lucy Hopkins, who is a rising 2nd year MPP candidate at the Batten School, where she is primarily interested in urban policy with a special focus on equity and sustainability. She majored in history and government in undergrad, so she was excited for the opportunity to work with ACHS on the Cvillepedia project. Thank you all very much. We're very happy to have you with us. And with that, let's start with a simple question. This one's to you, Tom. What is Cvillepedia?
Oh, why am I on the spot? Cvillepedia is a wiki that was created in 2019 by Charlottesville Tomorrow, a local wiki. It's dedicated to sharing and building community, knowledge and history about people, places, things, events that have happened in Albemarle and Charlottesville. It's built with the same software that you use for Wikipedia, and it is a free, public, collaborative encyclopedia that anyone can edit and improve. So by the people, for the people, by the user, for the user. And this falls in line very much with our mission, where we say history is not the past, it's the story we tell about the past. Every person in Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville has a unique and powerful story to tell, their own stories. So that's the beauty that we see of a collaborative wiki that needs a lot of users to add that information to it. There's some guidelines that help guide the user and how to put information into Cvillepedia, and that's something that the Formative Change Group folks have looked at. I think the two most important are be neutral. It's a neutral point of view is a point of view. It's not the absence or the elimination of a viewpoint, but it is a point of view that's neutral. It's neither sympathetic or in opposition to whatever the subject is that you're putting into the article and the information you're providing through the wiki, and trying to be as unbiased as possible. And then I think the other second guideline that's the most important is to cite your source, to have a link to wherever possible, be able to cite a verifiable source that supports what you're saying, what your sentence or what your article is about. So I think that in general is kind of what Cvillepedia is.
All right, so why does ACHS want to do anything with Cvillepedia? Why are we taking on this project?
Well, as a volunteer-run project that is currently hosted by Charlottesville Tomorrow, I started looking around when I started in this position to understand more about the local wiki, Cvillepedia. And what I realized is that there was some more work that needed to be done to expand it, to improve it. And I thought that was a great opportunity to have an existing wiki in place that we could start with. Because with the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, we've been serving the local community for over 80 years. The role of the society is to collect, preserve, and interpret local history. But we also envision looking at the 21st century as a way where historical societies can embrace technology, digital archives, to look at expanding accessibility, expanding access to information, and particularly for us, historical information and history. So we think Cvillepedia is a perfect fit for what we envision for our future. With everything a little bit out of the ordinary with the past year with COVID, not to say, having an executive director for the Historical Society starting on April 1st and being in the middle of all this, it's been a little bit interesting, but we're trying to look at taking some small steps with Charlottesville Tomorrow, Jefferson Madison Regional Library, and others to think of a comprehensive plan for Cvillepedia's future. To look at how we can expand it, improve community partnerships, ensure the site is equitable and accessible on an equitable level, and that it's an accessible archive for all the local history, and that it's a platform for community-driven type of resource by and for local citizens, like I said. So with that, when we approached the Batten School and the Formative Change Group, we thought it would be a great idea, and they've been they did a great job this past semester in kind of helping us get this plan off the ground and put the first steps into place. So, I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to talk about with their project.
Yeah, okay, so that's what Cvillepedia is and what we want to do with it. So the question is how? But first, Anna, can you tell us a little bit about the Formative Change Group? And then we'll get into what you guys actually did for us.
Yeah, of course. FCG is a consulting club through the Batten School that partners with local organizations to tackle semester-long projects. Through guidance from older club members who have had experience in consulting, we ourselves learn about consulting by tackling an actual problem in the community. Julian, Lucy, and I selected this project based on interest, and we worked after school and on the weekends to help the Historical Society with Cvillepedia. Great.
All right, so Anna or Julian or Lucy, chime in however you see fit. Tell me a little bit, just kind of an overview of the project, what you did for us concerning Cvillepedia and your respective roles.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start and then pass it off to Julian and Lucy. Our goal was to audit the current Cvillepedia website to gain an understanding of the current information and also provide steps to make the content more comprehensive, diverse, and inclusive, and propose guidelines and community partners to help add stuff moving forward. I specifically looked at like the current conditions of Cvillepedia and kind of what information existed. And then Julian, Julian, you want to say what you did?
Yeah, so my role in the project was mainly finding ways to think about how we can recruit more volunteers and what gets people interested and excited about a project like this, as well as thinking about some of the moderation techniques and forms that we could implement to help the site run more smooth. So that was my role.
Yeah. And then I was looking towards different community partnerships, different organizations that were available to potentially become partners and help out with Cvillepedia, and additionally looked into some of the challenges of like long-term digital historical preservation projects like this.
And you guys produced a very impressive report for us. We appreciate that. Anna, back to you. You said you looked at the current conditions of Cvillepedia. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so Cvillepedia has 5,000 pages and delves into different areas of the community. There's information about history, elected officials, a lot of information and a lot of pages that link to other pages. So it's very comprehensive about the information that it includes. But there is a lot of areas where information is lacking or potential areas to create on the new page.
Okay. So how does Cvillepedia compare to other similar wikis?
It's larger than several of the other local wikis, but I think that other local wikis have somewhat better effectiveness as a community resource through the content they include and like the organization of pages. In terms of overall content, Cvillepedia has, like I said, so much information, over 5,000 pages, but a lot of other community wikis use the main landing page is more of like a community announcement board, a calendar, really like a flagship for community events. Where Cvillepedia is more dedicated to documentation of this.
So you think if we did more, had more of an announcements calendar function that could drive more traffic, you think?
Yes.
Okay. What, in your research, what would you say are some of the highest areas of need on Cvillepedia?
Yeah, so I found the community, history, and neighborhood portals are some of the highest need areas on Cvillepedia. These pages are missing either significant information and should be like reorganized to be more accessible. And then these categories are also some of the places where there's the biggest possibility for not as like diverse information and could be more inclusive.
Okay. What do you think we can achieve if we improve these need areas?
I think that improving these areas considered high need would significantly improve Cvillepedia's ability to be representative of the representative community resource. For example, the community portal can be a go-to resource for information about elections and elected officials, and just an information source for the community and community events.
Thank you. Julian, you said you focused on the need for volunteer users. Why do we need people to contribute to Cvillepedia, in your opinion?
Well, like Anna was saying, this website covers a lot of topics and has the potential to cover even more. And so right now it's fairly limited in how many people actively use it. And the whole goal of our project and going forward, hopefully with the Historical Society, will be to build on the volunteer base that builds up this website. because in order to cover all the relevant information, we need as many people working on this project as possible to get as much information as possible and to keep it updated and relevant so that people in the local community can really use it on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis to get information that they're curious about or that they need that's really invested and rooted in Charlottesville.
Okay. Why would people want to contribute to Cvillepedia? That's the big question, right?
Yeah, so there's been a bunch of studies done about, there's always a diehard group of people that constantly contribute to Wikipedia, and there's been studies done on why, what gets these people excited about contributing to Wikipedia and other sites like it. And so a big one, they kind of went through a bunch of big ones. And so just to name the top few ones, people felt a calling to contribute to Wikipedia as to build up a community resource. So a trusted resource that people go to for information that people kind of took pride in and contributing to so that other people could use it. Another one is kind of inquiry and curiosity. So kind of the idea that you never stop learning, so people can constantly do research and from that input information that they learn about and that they research about into the site. So it's not only them learning, but helping other people learn along with them. And then another idea that I think we could really has a big potential to build up on with the Historical Society getting involved with the site is collaboration and socializing. So if we grow a robust volunteer base, people have the opportunity to collaborate and socialize with people that may have similar interests, different interests, but always a love to contribute to creating a strong community and just researching topics that are relevant and important to the community.
I've discovered another reason why someone might want to use Cvillepedia. When I've started looking into this project, I got myself a Wikipedia account, and I've noticed that I end up contributing most often when I'm reading Wikipedia and I find grammatical errors, and I'm just compelled to fix those grammatical errors. People could help us with that as well. All right. Given that we're talking about a crowdsourced resource, and there have been many divisive issues in Charlottesville in recent years, particularly about when it concerns local history. Julian, you also looked into potential problems that could arise on Cvillepedia. Can you speak a little bit about the tension between having an information source that is community produced and the desire to have information that is accurate and objective?
Yeah, so this really speaks to how the site like this is structured, and so you want to promote as many people contributing to the site as possible, getting people excited about contributing, and keeping it as trying to get rid of some of the barriers that people may have to contributing to the site. But also, obviously, you got to worry about accuracy, and then Wikipedia has controversies and arguments coming up all the time about information that's maybe incorrect or may not be neutral in nature. So it comes down to how the site is structured, and Cvillepedia actually right now is I think it's pretty well structured in that you need a small group of very involved people, also bureaucrats, so to speak, who can deal with very time-sensitive issues quickly. So this could be controversial pages, pages relating to Confederate monuments, which are obviously a big topic in Charlottesville, as we all know, and other things like that. So you need a balance of these people who can intercede very quickly to solve conflicts, but also forums need to be set up along with this one side, and on the other side, forums could address more information that isn't as time sensitive, but can allow for communities, people to get involved and to kind of like crowdsource opinions and an input from people so that people can feel involved and can express their expertise on topics. And so that's how we kind of balance making sure that the site functions well, but also involves as many people as possible to solve a conflict and to make sure that the information is as accurate as possible. So it's setting up this small bureaucratic group that doesn't use its power, all the time to control the site, but instead just deals with time-sensitive issues, and then also setting up the forms necessary for people to contribute to making sure the site is up to date, accurate, and functions well in the long term.
And the idea is it just gradually gets better and better over time as more people contribute to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we definitely want as many people as we can to take part, to share what they know. What are your suggestions on how we find people willing to become Cvillepedia users?
Yeah, so I think this comes back to the idea of really promoting social events and a sense of community amongst volunteers and people that use the site. And hopefully now that things are starting to open back up, this is even more of a time to kind of promote the social aspect of the site, where we can attach Cvillepedia events to existing historical society events as kind of an add-on. People learn about an interesting topic. They go out, maybe do some of their own research. They come to an event that is explicitly tailored to adding information to Cvillepedia. And it's, people come together and add to a site with research that they've done from events or on their own. So that's one method of just adding additional event to existing events. And then also just like promoting online platforms to enhance collaboration and a sense of community. So we've already set up a Slack channel, which is great, and we can make a public one for people that are heavily involved in the site, and just trying to organize events even explicitly on their own that are related to Cvillepedia. And this kind of speaks to what Anna was talking about as well with the social calendar and just embedding the site more in the community and local events that are happening. So it's about just like tapping into existing communities and networks within within Charlottesville, and then just working with an already established infrastructure of the historical society.
So it sounds like you're telling me that for all of our programs we put out in the future, we need some kind of a Cvillepedia link in there. Is that about right?
Yeah, and then also, a big hurdles for a lot of people is, I can't contribute to a computer website. Like I have no coding knowledge. I don't know anything. And so I think Cvillepedia has gotten a lot easier to use, and it honestly could just take some persuading and to show people like, hey, you can do this. You can contribute to a site and, feel good about documenting important information and, contributing to a shared resource. So it's just also convincing and showing people that they can do this. So that's part of it too.
All right, so we're gonna have a how-to program sometime soon, I guess. All right, Lucy, you looked into potential community partnerships. Why do we need partners for Cvillepedia? What role can the partners play?
So we need partners for communal historical projects like this because partnerships really enable the project to have longevity. It's really important to get community investment and community buy-in to a long-term digital preservation work. In talking to Worthy Martin, who works at UVA, he mentioned the importance of having a sociological home for a historical project like this. So getting buy-in from different community groups can ensure that there will always be someone who's willing to work on Cvillepedia and contribute, and that the forum is cared for long-term. So that's really important. And additionally, because this is a community-centered product and project, it's really important to have community members being the people who work on it and contribute to it and really care for it.
Okay. Can you give us some ideas of the types of partners we should be looking for?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be important to get people who can commit longer term to be part of this website. People who have a good working knowledge of Charlottesville, and who are willing to work within some of those guidelines that Julian had mentioned above, and who are kind of in it for the longer haul. So in talking to people who work in like the field of historical preservation, they mentioned that a lot of retired folks or people with slightly more time on their hands could be really great people to work on this site. Additionally, they mentioned that, when thinking about community volunteers, it's important to recognize that like high school students and college students, while they're very eager and very helpful, are only going to be in Charlottesville in all likelihood for a short time. So really prioritizing those longer term commitments and the longer term partnerships, partnering with maybe organizations rather than just set people is a really good goal for making sure that this is a long-term project.
Okay. It strikes me though that maybe if we, hook in some, folks like yourselves while you are around, get you on Cvillepedia, maybe that will, encourage you to stay involved over a longer term. At least that's what we're hoping. All right. So what did you guys like about working on this project?
I guess for me, I really didn't know a ton about Charlottesville as like a town and like the history of it. I knew things here and there, but at UVA, we really don't interact too much in depthly with the community and just the history and things like that. So it was really interesting, like learning more about this community resource and just kind of through looking at all the pages on the website, just learning more about the community. Yeah.
Okay.
I was excited just to kind of implement some strategies and ideas that we learned in school with, psychology methods. We take a whole class in Batten on the psychology of leadership. And so just thinking about how those concepts can apply to promoting a community and to kind of helping assist in a overhaul of an existing website and community and network. So it's just exciting to apply some things that we learned in school to help an organization, to help the community document its own history and promote connections. So.
And I think I was excited for the same reasons as Julian. And then just additionally, I did do a history major during my undergrad at UVA. And I went to ACHS and was able to use some of your collections on actually about like Vinegar Hill and other neighborhoods in Charlottesville, and really benefited from that in my project. And I was just excited to be able to kind of, I don't know if give back is the right word, but to put more effort into this group that had provided to me. So that was really exciting. I was happy to be put on this project.
Well, great. We're happy to have you. Hey, Tom, do you have any questions for our panelists?
What Anna said, would mention about learning about the local history and the difference between UVA and the community. I found it, do you think it was ironic that you had to move to Hawaii to do that?
Yeah, despite the distance, I did learn a great deal. Like I was missing too much with the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that points out the interconnectedness of our world through technology and the ability that Anna had as kind of the team leader here to lead this project while wondering if the chickens outside her window were squawking too much to bother us all as we were in a Zoom meeting. But no, it's been great working with them. Just one question I had here. With I had somebody, I don't know if you call it a complaint, but it's kind of interesting, and it comes back to what Sterling was talking with Julian about, or I guess maybe with Lucy too, about the age difference in terms of how the demographic that we're looking at, you know, with folks who are, if you look at the membership here at the Historical Society, it's predominantly an older, retired, who have time to spend and time to give, but also that, you know, there's a vitality to the younger generation and an interest in a sort of a dynamic to how you are approaching social issues and how you're approaching technology to, you know, try to do this kind of user-based, this collaborative type of thing. So, you know, how do we bridge that, I guess? Any thoughts about that?
No, maybe not.
Question, huh? I guess I stumped them. I guess the question is, you know, if a 77-year-old woman writes me an email complaining about the fact that the 22-year-old folks at UVA are controlling history, you know, how do you respond to that? To say, no, well, why don't you get involved? And if their excuse is, well, I'm not as technologically savvy as the younger folks, well, then you just refuted your whole argument about why should the 22-year-old control, you know, history, so to speak, through Cvillepedia.
Yeah, so I know that I also have tried to help with technology, and it can kind of be overwhelming at times, but Michael updated the website, I believe. I'm not sure if he had help from other people or not, but I know that Michael played a large part in updating the website. So it was able to be very user-friendly in terms of editing. So I think that if you can check an email, you can write an email, then you can also edit Cvillepedia. I think that where it's an open source website, anyone can make edits at any time. And if there's like a problem with something that's being put on the website, there is an administrative team like that is prepared through guidelines that govern these like type of issues to deal with a policy issue. And if it worst comes to worst, you can just vote on policy. I know that that's done on Wikipedia to vote on content and creation. So,
You know, in my opinion, maybe a project like this is the way to bridge that gap. Often it takes people a little bit later in life to learn the value of history. A lot of times people, once they get a certain age, it gets a whole lot more difficult to adapt to changing technology. Maybe this is a great way to start bringing perspectives from across the generation gap together.
And I think it's important to think about that on this site. It's really people contributing what they love and are interested about and what they're experts on. So it's fun to learn from other people, and everyone kind of brings their own background knowledge and experiences. And I know one thing that we talked about that we weren't able to pull off in the few months that we were working on the project, but was reaching out to people in the community to see their stories, and we want to hear what's the folklore in Charlottesville, what is the local history. And so it takes those connections of maybe someone at the university reaching out to someone who has these stories in Charlottesville and saying, hey, here's a place for you to document what you've experienced. And so I think that's the way where, we can bring people in from the community into this website that we're excited to help keep going and to update and to hopefully stay strong for a while. So.
We have a question. Knowing what you know about Cvillepedia, what is your recommendation for the first step ACHS should take to develop this resource further? And what ideas do you have for community partners? So first step, Anna, what would you say our first step should be?
There's a few technical problems like broken links and unsourced information that would be beneficial to fix before adding more information, but I don't think they're going to take too long, and they're somewhat small in number. After that, I think tackling the high need areas like the community, neighborhood, and those high need portals, adding more information, getting more perspectives, adding, I guess, kind of like supplementing those. And then moving forward, you can add information anywhere. I think that those are the places to focus on if you're kind of trying to really commit to doing an overhaul of the website and really building its content. But there's no right or wrong way to edit. And if someone wants to edit a page that's in a category that has a lot of information already, that's no problem at all. Just, I think those are the places that kind of, if someone is really dedicated to taking on this project, should be target first.
Okay, great. Julian, do you have anything to add to that?
And I say, you know, everything that Anna identified is really important because obviously we want the content of the site to be as up to date as possible so people can use it a lot. And that takes manpower. So, you know, everyone in this meeting, everyone watching, go tell 2 people about the site, get them signed up. That's how we grow this, is just, you know, people know people know people. And so that's how we grow the community. And I think just starting to attach events to existing events that are already being held by the Historical Society is a great next step as well. In addition to also setting up online forums for people that are already involved to keep talking about it, to settle disputes, and to, you know, just get people excited about, hey, I learned about this really interesting topic. Let me tell you guys about it. Let me go at it, or let's see if we can do more research on this topic. And so it's just establishing, you know, places for community to grow, and then people going out into their community, into their networks, and saying, hey, here's this really cool resource I learned about. So.
And Lucy, do you have any thoughts on that, and specifically on the first steps towards, you know, for finding community partners?
Sure thing. Yeah, I think just like Julian was talking about, really the power in reaching out to community members through community organizations. So specifically, if you're looking at like different regional libraries, working with different regional libraries, working with this local volunteer group, I believe it's called Kava, that they're with United Way. It's about people who are in the community already, who are really connected within volunteering, connected to Charlottesville, connected to this area, who are willing to put in the work already, and then can go out and talk to other people as well. Those are going to be good organizations to reach out to. And then just additionally, I think in my like interviews and discussions with folks who do like digital preservation, they really emphasize the importance of creating just a pass down document. So some way to document the way that the website is run, basically how everything works, which is a really like kind of time intensive project, and it's certainly going to be like a laborious task, but we'll make sure that should Cvillepedia change hands, should anything happen in the future, there is a document for people to look at and say, hey, this is exactly how this works. And so it'll allow for the transition of Cvillepedia in the future and for its growth. And so that's something to create and then maintain and update as well. But yeah, that's like an important next step, I think.
Okay, appreciate that. Tom, any other questions on your end?
Sorry, I was muted. Typical. I think, see, Addie had a question. I'm trying to get it to it. Excited about seeing it being revitalized. I was wondering if your group recommends prioritizing certain subjects in terms of filling in history gaps via new pages, or if there's a list of subjects that are missing that definitely need to be added. And I actually just saw Sean on the chat through Zoom has updated Cvillepedia with your report, so it's available now through Cvillepedia. So that kind of answers some of that. But then she asked, would it be possible for a priority list like this to remain neutral?
Good question. Any of you guys have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out. Could you repeat the question?
She was just talking about how prioritizing certain subjects in terms of filling in the history gaps And that's a lot of what you did, and it's a lot of what's in the report. And I just mentioned that Sean recently just posted that as we speak to Cvillepedia. So your report is now live through Cvillepedia. But that the question she asked about that is, would it be possible for a priority list like this to remain neutral?
Well, I think that, I did come up with the priority list, so it's going to be like biased towards in my findings and just kind of what I spent more time with and what I didn't. And I also interviewed a few community members who had to look at the website and kind of had suggestions as well. But I think that in any context, it's going to be difficult to be like absolutely neutral. I'm not claiming that at all. I did try my best for it to be neutral and tried to look at as many perspectives as I could, but always open to suggestions and willing to meet if anyone has any ideas for improvements.
Any other thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, one thing that I think about, and this is sort of as just as like someone who participates in student journalism, or at least did participate in student journalism, there are some topics that come up in history that are super pertinent to things that are going on right now. So I think Julian mentioned this earlier, but like Confederate statues are certainly something that remain important, especially to the going on of Charlottesville today. So prioritizing things that have like distinct importance and relativity, or I guess like relative importance to what's going on in the moment. That seems like a way to a less, maybe less biased way to make sure that we're keeping on top of everything. Yeah, but that's just a thought.
No, I get you completely, Lucy. And I believe I was actually saying something similar to my tour group today. So that we never tell every single possible fact about history, because that would be impossible. We always prioritize certain things that we focus on. And so if we have a bias, then it should be towards those aspects of history that are most relevant today, and also to those aspects of history that have previously been overlooked or ignored or lost. It's just my 2 cents there. Thoughts, Tom?
No, completely agree with that. I think there's an importance to leaning to being less neutral when you're trying to tell a story that may have not been told before, or a history that was just negated or not, or just completely, erased in many ways. I mean, I'm thinking most recently about the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacres, and how that was just basically not included, and people even in Tulsa for decades didn't even know what happened in their own community afterwards. So I think there's a certain neutrality that you need to have in terms of telling the story, but in terms of prioritizing what is missing, I think there's an important part of making sure that you're focusing on things to fill the gaps that actually do fill the gaps. And Addie also mentioned that she loved what Julian said about using differences in technological literacy to build multi-generational connections. So encouraging dual editors or something like that could be a great way to build momentum for the project and begin to smudge the town gown divide. Plus, it sounds like a natural way to do some oral history too. So that could be an interesting little, program there, trying to combine a younger college student with an older retired or semi-retired local person, and have that, be that cross-pollination to add to what is missing on the site.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are great ideas. Yeah, all right. Any other thoughts, questions? Tom, did you have anything you'd like to say about specifically about our goals for Cvillepedia in the near future and why people in the community should care?
Well, what we're trying to do is take a site that is great in and of itself, and the fact that it exists. I mean, and I see Lane Raspberry is one of our guests here, and he referred to Cvillepedia as something that he understood as to be the largest local Wikipedia in the world, as far as he understands. And I guess what this project has kind of verified is that there are others out there that maybe aren't as big. They might be a little bit more organized, but that just is probably a product of the how this has been the baby of another person who is on this Zoom, Sean Tubbs, who has basically worked very closely to keep Cvillepedia going, even after leaving Charlottesville Tomorrow. Brian Wheeler and Sean Tubbs being the co-founders, and now looking to the next steps of what Sean loves Cvillepedia. He referred to it as his Sudoku or his crossword puzzle. He gets into Cvillepedia and how it's structured and how it's organized. It's like he can think through something, and it also allows him to understand the history. So we were talking to him earlier today in another project with another person who we have on board here, Inika, who is our intern through the NAW Center, who is putting the report to practice, looking at some of these gaps, filling in the gaps, actually writing articles, correcting the citations, connecting the dead links, and so on. And the point being is that Sean was looking at this to answer a question that somebody had about a particular neighborhood, or some thought that they had, or didn't I hear from somewhere somebody said that this happened over there? And he's like, no, I can find the citable reference and I know where it is, and here it is. And having all that at our fingertips, the technology that's available, you don't have to go to the Historical Society. The Historical Society can go to you through this, screen that we're all looking at right here. You can interact with this encyclopedia, this wiki, in a way that provides you information, but that you can also then use it to put information out. And I think in this day and age, when there is so much conversation about false information, about people blatantly lying about things, but if you lie about it enough, then it becomes truth almost in a weird way. I think this is hopefully a way in which we can look at how we as a community can come together through a community-based system such as this, and say we can do it in a neutral way. We can do it in a way that we can all, you're not going to have a debate through Cvillepedia, but maybe on the backside of it you will. But at least that information is being put out as neutral, it is factual, and it is information that people just need to know. Refer back to that tour that Sterling had today, where it was a group of folks who, in many of which were born in Charlottesville or have lived in Charlottesville for many years, and every one of them walked away from that tour saying, I learned something new about the place. I've learned something new about something that I've walked by for the past 20 years. And that's important because it means that we're telling the story in a way that is allowing maybe forgotten parts of that history to rise to the surface and have an importance. So I think looking forward to meeting with Charlottesville tomorrow and looking with James Jefferson Madison Regional Library and reaching out to other partners in the community to see how we can grow this into something that that becomes a community-based organized means by which we capture information. And it's like if people say, if you Googled it, I'd love it if like people around Charlottesville in Albemarle County would be like, hey, did you Cville that? You use that as a means by which he's like, oh, well, no, I didn't. He's like, well, go Cville it and then come back to me and we'll talk about it because you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that would be fabulous. I think that would be a great way to work. So, and I open it up to Lane or Sean or Anika, and if anybody else wants to throw their 2 cents in there or ask a question. We have a few more minutes before we hit the 8 o'clock witching hour, which is usually a hour-long program, is something that we aim for. So feel free to step in.
If I could go real quick, if I think I'm on. First of all, Lane, I don't mean to call you out, but I'm going to a little bit. I'm going to put in the chat. One of the cool things about about this software, this is a very powerful piece of software that allows us, people who don't code, to be able to organize information fairly quickly. So I'm going to put in here a link, and if you click on this link, what you'll see is a revision of the Cvillepedia. I just updated the page on Cvillepedia. Lane had an incorrect fact. I didn't create Cvillepedia, but that is now gone. But you can now see how, if you look at this, you'll get a side-by-side that can allow you as a potential editor or just somebody to see, well, where's this information coming from? And so, you know, so that's gone, but obviously I have done a lot. But it's important to remember that all of this was, of course, created mostly to provide information sources that weren't there. I just want to preface what I'm about to post next in the link by saying that both, and my cat's going to meow, he's loud, but it's going to happen. Albemarle County and Charlottesville both changed their websites last year. Vast resources disappeared. They're gone. But we live here, and so you cannot go, not that it was there before, there is no list on city council of who has been on city council over the last 50 years. Same for the board of supervisors. Just real quick, just to make the point and shut up so that the rest of you can talk. This is a link of all the city councilors from 1928 to the present. This is a resource that was created through Cvillepedia. Just basically, not just me, and you can click every single thing. You can look and see who contributed to every single page. You know, that's been valuable. And the idea is that you can't leave it up to just the governments to do this, because they're going to change their, or local media outlets, because they're going to change their websites all the time and information will get lost. The purpose of the historical, and why I'm so excited about the Historical Society taking this on, is that this matters. People are going to need to know in 50 years, if this thing still exists, who was on council now, who made these decisions. And then that's a basis for further scholarship. I will just say that in this research, you'll notice that 1948 was the year in which, if you click on it, in which the last independent was elected in 1948. And then Nakia Walker was the next person in 2017. That was something that was done through journalism, but also it kind of collaborates, and, you know, journalism is day by day, but being able to archive these little pieces, and then I forget about them, you know, but yet it's there. And it's like, I look, I'm like, oh gosh, that's there. Who put that? Oh, it was me. Oh, but I want everybody to think that way, because we all care about our communities and we all have the information, and there are barriers to entry. I just want to say before I be quiet, this report is fantastic because I think it does set a pathway for some of the things that need to happen. Not to put a cold damper on it by any means, but there is a learning curve and a lot of people give up quickly. I am really hopeful. I just want to, before I be quiet, Katie, I think there's a woman here or person here, Katie Wazinger, your account has been approved. So that's it. Now I'll shut up.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Anyone else want to chime in?
I mentioned, like Sean said, there's a learning curve, but there's also a lot of support in this community. If anyone ever hosts a Cvillepedia editing event, I would certainly try to be there and bring my friends. I'm doing Wikipedia research at the School of Data Science at the university. I also work with the library that also organizes wiki editing events. Wiki editing can mean Wikipedia, it can mean Cvillepedia. In either case, people are going through archives and special collections about local history and adding information. It'd be great to collaborate between the Historical Society and the library. I'll always be there.
Thank you, Lane.
If I could just step in for one quick second, you know, thinking of the future, one thing that's not in the report, one of the this is gonna, I'm not trying to diss the library, the University of Virginia library, but they have archives of the Daily Progress going back to whenever it is, 98. They took away a functionality, but I believe that machine learning will help us. None of that information is readable or searchable or indexable. It's my hope that maybe we could put together a project that would allow all of that history, but not just the Daily Progress. Let's keep in mind there were other newspapers, and if we can get those resources and make that archive, but also I will also throw in, again, media that we've had from the last 20 years, it could disappear. That's a very loud cat. He wants to go out, but I have birds now because he doesn't go out anymore. But I was just gonna say, yeah, there's so much possibility for this, and I'll be quiet.
All right.
I have one thing to contribute if they'll give me just a minute here. I think one more barrier to entry might be that some people think they don't have anything to contribute, that they don't know much about Charlottesville or the surrounding area, or maybe they feel like they don't know, like have the resources to do research. But I can just say I'm an intern at the Historical Society, and some of my most valuable resources in contributing to Cvillepedia and writing articles about buildings that don't exist anymore is just remembering what is here now. So even if you just jot down like, okay, well, this building is here on this street and these are the people who work there. Having information like that is so important, just the little details. So it doesn't have to be some major undertaking where you're writing multiple articles a week, or you don't have to do the big things because the little things are just as important.
And I just wanted to follow up with that in the sense that in many ways, the people who come into the Historical Society, we've had a lot more visitors recently with, as things kind of relax a little bit more, but they're looking for specific details about family, or my grandfather or my great-grandfather had a business in Charlottesville. Where was it? And we look to business directories, phone books, the basic things that were put out there in paper for years, in which people use to understand information. And now with things going from more analog or paper to digital, it's trying to capture that, trying to understand, what my grandchildren will be coming to a historical society looking for, to look for the business directories or the phone books. Well, we don't have those really anymore. They're all digital. And then what will that look like in the future? So I think that's something historical societies and just people in general who understand archival stuff more than I do on that end need to kind of think through. And I know we do have a project with JMRL and our librarian Miranda Burnett, who's doing a web archive through JMRL. So that's one thing, hopefully that would help Sean with some of those dead links. And when websites go away, is that to, archive those and then link to them. So we'll have to talk about that offline in another case. But anyway, just wanted to follow up. So I appreciate all those comments.
All right, just a few minutes left. I want to get back to our panelists real quick. Anna, do you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
I guess I'd just like to say thank you for being such great partner hosts. We really did enjoy working with you all this semester. And a lot of the things that we did, we weren't able to cover in this hour. I think reading the report out loud would take an hour in and of itself. So I definitely encourage everyone, if you're interested, to check out the report and to go ahead and make some user accounts for Cvillepedia.
All right, thanks. What about you, Julian? Any final words?
This was awesome. It was delving into this world of wiki sites and just getting to know the community was awesome this semester. And I'll stand by my statement of everyone here or watching, tell 2 people about the site.
Thanks, Julian. All right, parting wisdom, Lucy.
Yeah, I think just like Julian, this was a really interesting project to be part of. Really, I think very educational, and I'm really hopeful to see, and I will be following to see what happens with Cvillepedia and who partners on in the future. I'm very excited to see the site grow.
Great, thanks. We knew we could hook you in. All right, I guess that's just about enough meandering for one evening. But before we go, we invite, as always, any suggestions you have about where we meander from here. Send us your ideas for future guests, future topics, whatever you've got, leave it in the comments or email me at programs@albemarlehistory.org. Don't forget to check out our next Ask a Genealogist on Tuesday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Our next speaker series on Foxfield Farm with Sam Taller on Tuesday, June 15th at 7 p.m. The Forgotten History of Penn Park on Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. And our special event, The Independence of Poe, on Tuesday, June 29th at 6 p.m. Wow, that's a lot of Tuesdays. You can keep up with our calendar of events on our website and social media and find links to register. But please look beyond the Tuesday column. I'm sure there will be other dates in the future. And remember, everything we do as your historical society is because of your support. If you have not joined us as a member, please consider doing so. Our annual individual membership is only $45. That's a very small amount that goes a long way towards supporting this program and all of our programs. And you will have free access to all of our programs, our research facilities, and our annual scholarly magazine. So please support your historical society. Visit our website to join or call us at 434-296-1492. Unregulated Historical Meanderings is brought to you by the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society and our wonderful supporters like you. Thanks again to Lucy, Julian, and Anna for Zooming with us today. And thanks to everyone out there for joining us and supporting what we do. I'm Sterling Howell here with Tom Chapman, and we hope to see you on the next Unregulated Historical Meanderings. And go check out Cvillepedia. Until then, meander on. Good night, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great night.